Oh, I spoke to him. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Daily Live. Everton versus Crystal Palace tonight in the FA Cup. You would have forgotten there was a game this week with everything that has gone on so far. And obviously, Richard Masters stirred that whole pot again yesterday with his comments. I just want to clear something up for some people who thought that what we're saying about, certainly from my perspective, what we're saying about the small club comment. Like, I don't really care personally whether he thinks Everton are a small club or not. I'm not asked. I know how big Everton are, and history and trophies and everything else tells you how big a football club Everton are. And the fact that there's a story about us every single day also tells you how big Everton are. It's much, much bigger than that. This is not getting a cob on because Rafa Benitez called us a small club in 2007. This is, it's the bigger picture to this, that we have a representative and quite a powerful representative of a Premier League, as in the chief executive officer, stand up when being questioned and refer to members of the Premier League as small clubs. What's that? Owners, yeah, owners, because they're all owners of that league when they're in it, as small clubs. And that, if he's prepared to say that while being questioned by MPs there in that environment, what are they saying when they're in their comfy little corridors at Premier League headquarters?
Play it for us, please. Play what he said.
So this is what we're talking about. Here it is.
It's on one of the VTs.
We will get it for you, Ned will play.
Sort of Everton front. Can you understand why there will be a degree of cynicism among fans? That we talked a lot about the cliff edge between the Premier League and the rest of football. There does appear to be a cliff edge inside the Premier League, where if you're a really big club and therefore you can not only afford the best players but the best lawyers, then you get embroiled in legal matters that take 10 years or never come to fruition. Whereas if you're Everton or Forest, there's an expedited procedure, to use your phrase, where suddenly in the middle of the season they get knocked 10 points off and get threatened with relegation, where on the pitch they wouldn't deserve that. Do you understand the cynicism that develops around that?
I do understand the issue, and I've tried to separate the two, in the sense that I've said that those standard directions are for everybody. They're not just for the small clubs. So if anybody was found to be in breach and put forward their PSR calculation that was above the threshold, then we're doing exactly the same thing on exactly the same time frame. There's a very separate process for the other cases, because they are fundamentally different in nature. Unfortunately, I can't go into all of that today.
There you go. That was the comment. And like I say, he's showing, for me, an unconscious bias. It might be a very, very conscious bias. But the way it's come out is that they are admitting that they don't see each club as equal within that environment. Now, when they, like I said, when he goes back to the corridors at HQ, then they might be going, these are the only teams that matter for us. And it might. We always say that's the big six, don't we? But for all we know, it's 3 or 4. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's 3 or 4 that matter, and the rest kind of don't. So that was my thing, the fact that he was prepared to, and I know it might be a Freudian slip, it might be he's under pressure and he's not thought, but doesn't that just give you a little bit of insight out to how the Premier League is viewed by someone who's operating it?
Yeah, I mean, he says it all there, doesn't he? You know, he's supposed to be equal, you know, and again, we know turnovers are not equal, we know fan bases are not equal, and we know trophy cabinets are not equal, and we all understand the hierarchy of football. We're not stupid. But for the guy to be in charge to say it, I think it is a slip that has obviously gone unnoticed. And again, other people can make fun of it and can say what they want, but I'm not like bothered about. I know where Everton are a smaller club than other clubs, and they're a bigger club than other clubs. We know that there's a hierarchy in football. There's a food chain. We all know that. But just to say it in something like that, And it's just it's disappointing that that committee didn't have enough football people in the room who understood the consequences of what he said there, and that the questioning was probably not as stringent of what it could have been if real sort of experts had been in the room. I mean, let's be honest, right? MPs are all generally lawyers. You know, some of them will have come from like professional backgrounds, some will be doctors, some of them, don't get me wrong, will be like Ian Byrne, the working class man done well, got in, don't get me wrong. But a lot of them are just people who don't quite understand those levels, and that, again, that's another reason why we need an independent regulator, is because he can sit there all day and he can come out with words and spout different things, but are the people in that room truly going to believe or understand, well, certainly understand what he's putting across to them? And they're just pulling the wool over the eyes of those kind of people. And don't get me wrong, like the government, or any government, whether it be, doesn't matter what party, should have any control over the football or any sport in this country, because they'll just make a mess of it like they do everything else. But that's why it has to be an independent regulator to oversee it. Otherwise, these people are marking their own homework, and that's where we all know why the world is why it is, because that's been going on for too long. We know there's too many dodgy people giving each other little backhanders or little contracts or whatever it is. We need true independence, and I think with football, I do believe you will get true independence, because it is our most important commodity in this country. I can't stress that enough, because actually we don't have any industries left. They've all been sold off. We don't have any industries left. This is our true biggest industry in this country. Premier League football, the Championship. Well, you can shake your head, John, but it just is. It just is. There's nothing. Tell me one other thing in this country that has an impact like Premier League football around the world.
Financial services.
No. To you, a little kid sitting there in India going, I want to be a financial... That's not what you said. No, but it is, though. That's the impact. That's the impact of Premier League football. No one wants to be a financial thing in any way. For Premier League is what beams into every single person's house.
I get that. It's not the biggest industry in this country. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. There'll be a lot different caveats on that. For me, it's the number one thing. It's the number one thing on the news. It's the number one thing everywhere. And it's being messed around all the time, and it needs someone in charge. And when people go on and say things like that, you can see how they view every other club. And as you know, it could be 2, could be 3, could be 4. But certainly they're not viewed as equal amongst the Premier League.
No, it definitely isn't. But he's let that Damascus slip where that's concerned. He's said it, out it comes, and it can't be put back in the box. It's done. And I think it is further reaching. Some people will be bothered by it, others won't. But I think a lot of other fans have picked it up and have been like, what kind of a comment is that? Not in case... I don't even mean the ones who are having a go or whatever. That's neither here nor there. That's tribalism at its best. But who cares what Richard Masters has really got to say? His opinion on Everton. Couldn't care less. Do you know what I mean? It's when you're saying that about when you're the CEO of a company, you should be bigging every club up. And saying he should have been there saying everything's equal. The Premier League's equal. Everything we do is equal. That should have been his message.
Everyone will get an equal chance. Everyone will get...
Exactly. Well, we look after everyone exactly the same. That's what the strength is in unity and blah. All the stuff they tried to say when 6 wanted to go somewhere else. So, listen, it is what it is.
I mean, they were all equal then, weren't they? When they all wanted
that was it.
That's the
when
thing,
they wanted them to keep, putting the pressure on the 6 who wanted to go, we were equal then. Yeah. They needed us then. So, we'll see what happens from there.
One thing I have noticed about this whole thing, though, I think there's definitely been a shift in the media landscape about it. There's nobody defending us this time. There's nobody coming out and trying to fight our corner for us, apart from obviously local journalists I think the national media have been massively briefed this time by the Premier League. There's nobody out there like really fighting our corner. There's people maybe talking about the larger implications, and people are dropping Man City's name in there and stuff like that. But so far, all the journalists I've seen, I know we spoke about it yesterday, all the journalists seem to be very, very critical of us, because it's almost like, well, you've done it twice now, without really understanding the facts of it again and putting that across, and again, that's for the wider world, where who all they see is the headlines and the controversy, and Everton done it again, so that shows you that, and all that kind of thing. And it's interesting. It is interesting, as I said, because I think the first time around, I think a lot of people had a lot of, well, certainly, maybe not when we got charged, but certainly when we got the 10 points, there was elements of sympathy for us, but almost feel like that sympathy's gone out the window now.
Well, it will, because I think if you're just taking a totally, if you're supposed, and we know a lot of these journalists aren't neutral. We know that the fans of clubs, and they try to play it down, but you can see by what they write, who they follow and who they big up and all that, who they are. But for them, they will just see a club that has failed it twice on the run. So whereas we got sympathy last time, my interesting thing will be when the independent commission changes the actual thing and says Everton actually didn't do that. What will they do then? If the independent commission comes round and, like John said yesterday, puts the things in the proper boxes they were put in, so Everton don't fail PSR, will there be big apologies from them and big stories about how they got it wrong? Will they shite? Because they've already had to go. But that's the way it is. We've brought a lot of that on ourselves. We know this. The people who oversaw this mess.
Yeah.
Our CEO, was happy to take the bonus and disappear into the hills. The fella who should be getting dragged up back on a bedsheet because he's in charge of the finances has disappeared as well. Farhad Moshiri, who owns the football club, I get all this, right? Him, by the way.
I get all this, and I get what Carragher was saying, but it's too little, too late. This stuff should have been being said. This stuff. I know, but this stuff that's been getting said by the fans for the last 2-3 years, the journalists just battered it off. You still got people like Oliver Holt who'll defend Kenwright to the high heaven. This is it's great saying it now, and I appreciate what Carragher said in his article.
In all fairness, he said it a year ago as well, when he called them the worst run football club.
Yeah, I know he did, and he was. And
he got a phone call from.
But I think I think there's a time and a place. I don't think that's what we need right now.
I think there's a
I'm saying. I don't think that's the defence what we need right now, because that points the fingers at one people, where right now we need to point the fingers pointed at another set of people.
No, but what I'm saying is fingers should be pointed everywhere. But I'm saying if you're a journalist who's got no affinity to Everton, well, basically if you're in the pockets of the Premier League, and let's be honest, the ones who are back in the Premier League are in the pockets of them because they have to be, otherwise they get all the privileges removed. They're not going to come out and defend Everton again, are they? Why would you?
I don't want them to.
You've breached.
But I don't want them
PSR
to defend,
twice on the run.
I don't want them to defend Everton. What I want them to do is look at the actual thing that is going on, the actual fact that the rules are changing. Go deeper into.
But you said he hasn't said they are changing now.
No, they are changing them. They just said they weren't changing them. They weren't going to be for next season.
So,
but
that's irrelevant then. He'll say.
Well, it's not relevant because it is changing. Everyone knows it's changing. The point being is that instead of, I'm not saying defend Everton. I don't want them to defend Everton. What I'm saying is we don't need those headlines, because there's only so many headlines. There's only so much you get out of this. People need to be looking at what's gone on and how we've come to this place. That's what, we've pointed those fingers. We've done that all day long. And I don't need personally to see the people. We know who caused this. We know it was the Everton board and it was Farhad Moshiri. No one needs to tell us. But let's have a look how we are in this situation of being here. And it's interesting again is that what the media is like, the Everton side of things is very much different from the Forest side of things as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't see anything about Forest, and yet their numbers are probably much worse than ours. And we're not really. You look at all the headlines. And it's
Well, I've seen
Forest are getting away. Like, in terms of this, again, I'm not saying they're getting away with it because they're being punished, but there's no one's really looking at them going, what you've done.
What I saw yesterday was Everton are still trying to protest their innocence, and Forest have held their hand up. So therefore, Forest deserve the sympathy, and Everton deserve none. That was a viewpoint. So that's
a weird way to look at things, isn't it? That's just. So you protest your innocence, you should be frowned upon.
Yeah,
that's
where we're at, though, aren't we?
Very strange.
And
way
when you take anything that someone who writes about football says with any seriousness, when they are just as bad as Richard Masters for biased, and they are, all of them, there isn't a decent journalist out there who can give you a unbiased opinion if it's a football club he doesn't like. You only have to look at what they write. They're all the same. Brian Farrell says, I hope Baz hasn't listened to the latest Athletic podcast. He'll be spitting feathers, very unsympathetic to Everton. But he will be, because journalists have been allowed to write whatever they want. No facts in it. And if they fact check them, they just go, oh, yeah, all right. They don't go out and rewrite the stuff. They don't even reference it. So that's what we're up against. There's no way around it. What can you do?
You've got to get ahead of it. You've got to get ahead of it as a.
How can we get ahead of it, though?
Because the football club have clearly not got the message out well enough, and haven't got someone out there who can get the message out there, who's going on Sky Sports News, going on Radio 5, going on Talk Sport, and putting Everton's side of the case out there. They're relying on people, local media, to try and break into that wall. And the problem is, your local media aren't getting on Sky Sports News at 10:30 when it's the press roundup. They're not going on Sky News when they're looking for someone a talking head to go on it. Sky won't even come near us now because they're scared of what we say. So what you need somebody who can get in front of them and get the facts across. And the problem is the rest of the world isn't hearing whether it's the right message or the right story, the wrong story, whatever anyone believes. What they're hearing is clearly at the moment, what it sounds like, is the Premier League's version of things, because they're being well briefed. Because the Premier League clearly have made sure that certain journalists are being looked after. You only have to know that by the fact that things have been leaked to them. So if you leak something to us, you're gonna. David Ornstein putting a story out the day before. Martin Ziegler putting stuff out, dropping breadcrumbs weeks before that. What it was, the fact that it was being put out there that it was going to be 10 points before, or the Premier League wanted 12 points. The journalists will go, I've got a good source here, I'll keep this up. Everton have to manufacture a way to get their side of the story better told. And if it needs to come from within, as far as I'm concerned. It needs a spokesperson, it needs somebody who can stand up in front or can go on Sky Sports News and say, this is what happened, or this is what we believed happened, and no, we're not being listened to. Because all I'm hearing is the Premier League side of things at the moment. And it sets a narrative, it sets a tone, it sets this idea that, and I think we had this before the first one, that Everton were already guilty before they even walked into that room. So how does an independent commission, you're already literally guilty before you've walked into a room? And I think that's where Everton have got to get better at. Because, and as I say, that's why I sort of take umbrage with what Carragher said in a way, because we know who put us in this situation. Everybody knows. I don't think that's the story for right now. He's absolutely right. I don't think he's wrong at all. I just don't believe that's the story that we need to hear right now. We need stories of, like, so on Saturday when we've got the Metro Mayor and the Metro Mayor of Manchester sitting down and going through, and they've got important people to sign up to it. Has that story really permeated the national media, that two really powerful Metro Mayors in this country have sat in front of fans and said, we are producing this letter? Has that really been put out there in the national media. Local media, I think certainly, and certainly what we see, because we see a lot of like Everton stuff, but I don't think that's even got into, and I think that's where Carragher should be standing behind them and saying, I'm with these people, this is what's going on. I think going after Mashiri and the board is almost like a year-old story, and he was there. Don't get me wrong, he was there then pushing that story. I absolutely agree with everything he says. I just think those headlines should be for something else right now, because we're losing the public battle. We really are. We really are. No one's got any sympathy for us, and maybe that's right in a way. But that's because we're not getting our story out. Like the idea of, like you just said before, if the commission says, well, the first time actually it was just because you'd fucked up your administration. It's stuff like that. Like even the thing of like saying the Premier League saying Everton have admitted to this. Everton haven't admitted to this. What they've done is they've had to literally when you hand in your forms and you go over, you're literally admitting to it. But there are mitigating circumstances, aren't they? So I just think we have to get.
I don't know who will do it, Pat.
But that's up to the club, isn't it? That's up to the club to find someone who can do that.
Perhaps if the Premier League had got a fucking move on, we'd have new owners who'd be able to put someone forward. But again, that's just being put at the bottom of a pile. If you're not going to pass the thing, bin them then. It's the same thing. We're being held. We're being dictated to by a fella that has proved his bias yesterday. They just got us in limbo. We've got 10 points hanging over you. We're going to try and charge it again. We might give you another point, even though I don't think it'll happen, but we might have more points on for 2 different seasons because we'll just make it up as we go along. And the other thing that will keep it in limbo for as well is that we'll just decide whenever we'll get down to deciding whether these owners can have you or not. Because all of this, like, they haven't given us satisfactory answers. If I ask Ned a question and he gives me an unsatisfactory answer, I ask him again for it. And if he still gives me one, I give him a deadline to give me the right answer. I don't just go, get back to us when you want, lads and ladies, which seems to be what the Premier League have done.
There's 2 ways of looking at that, isn't it? There's 2 ways of looking at that. Premier League probably should have a time limit for when they allow anyone to take over at a football club. If you don't give us the answers by this date,
that's it, it's off.
You go.
Yeah.
Or the other way to look at it is they want it to happen and are giving them enough time to give us the satisfactory answers. Isn't it? It's like the positive and the negative, isn't it? It's like,
I just think
look at the Newcastle thing. The Newcastle thing should never have happened. But if they'd had the time and if they'd had time limits, they would have cut it off. But clearly, the Premier League wanted the Newcastle thing to happen,
of course,
and pushed and pushed and pushed and let them. So that's. Do Ned us a favour. Throw us the 777 one up, please. BT2.
Okay, and when will Everton find out if the takeover by 777 partners is going to be confirmed by the Premier League?
As soon as we have completed the process, and unfortunately some processes take a matter of weeks, some if we haven't had satisfactory answers to the questions that we have asked, it takes a lot longer.
And so how long is this one going to take?
It has already been running for a number of weeks, so it's going to take longer.
And how much longer?
I don't know. I can't say. It is a very difficult question to answer.
Weeks, days, months, years?
Weeks. Well, hopefully weeks.
That's what he had to say about the takeover, and they haven't given us satisfactory answers, so I'll decide when I can be asked. That's how it come across anyway. That might be me being a little bit sensitive to it. But John, I mean, this thing has gone on and on and on. They said 12 weeks. 777 thing. Yeah. It started in September. Everton were told it'd be early December. That's when they expected the decision. Then they've been given 3 other dates since then, and the last one was last week, and they haven't been told. So, I mean, what did you make of Master's answer? And do you believe they should have been given a cut-off for it? As in, if you don't get these unsatisfactory answers to us by then, or for you, is it just the case of that's just the way it is? We just get on with it. Where are you on this?
Where I'm at it on it is this is an open-ended process. You know, people talk about it'll take a certain amount of time, but that's just guesswork. Okay, so if we go back to the beginning, my understanding was the entity that was expected, clearly a bit like the referee when VAR's happened, it's always the referee who actually formally makes the decision, right? Same applies here. The formal decision is going to come out the Premier League. The expectation was, my understanding at the beginning was, and this came straight from people who know, right, that the FCA had a substantial backlog of stuff they were doing, and it was possible, if not likely, the FCA would be the last one to come back with their answer. And then, of course, we'd hear what the Premier League said.
Yeah.
The FA came back first, because theirs was quite simple, as much to do about the women's team as anything else. The FCA then come back, which means it's not money laundering, it's not this, it's not that, it's not the other. There was a reasonable expectation that once the FCA had done theirs, the Premier League's view would follow soon afterwards, right? And there was clear briefing, clear as, you know, the lights on brightly. And the only difference between the different sources I got was whether it was going to be last week or the very beginning of this week. Now, of course, the 15th being when the PSR stuff comes out makes you think it's not that. It didn't happen last week, so I checked my sources and I got told it's now expected / assumed that decision will come out Thursday, Friday this week. Until Richard Masters said yesterday, it's weeks away.
Yeah.
And we've spoken offline, and it's like VAR, mate. Someone's clearly offside, but they take 3 or 4 minutes to check it out, right? Now, VAR are doing that if you're on their side just to make sure they get it right, yeah? Or they're looking for a reason not to give the goal or not to give the penalty or the opposite, right? Why do you take so long to keep looking at the same thing, which perhaps doesn't look like you want it to look? I've no idea whether the Premier League really have their preferred outcome, but I'm totally on side with anybody, regardless of what you do or don't want to happen, that surely they've had long enough.
That's it.
Surely. Yeah. And as soon as Master said what he said, I sent a message to the PR agency who looks after 777 and said, where are you at? You know?
Yeah.
And I tweeted the answer, which was very simplistically, we've given them everything they asked for. So all I can assume is that Masters, before he goes into this committee meeting yesterday, he asks his person, where are we at with 777? Because I'm bound to get I'm bound to get a question about it.
Yeah.
And he gets told, well, we're not totally happy with some of the answers we've had. It's quite possible 777 didn't know that they're not happy with the answers until Masters blabbed it in a committee.
Said it,
so I just think he's struggling to keep his head above water. There's lots of things happening all at the same time. He's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. And that's why you get the pressured stuff of small clubs. The rules are for small clubs as well, not just for big ones, sort of thing. So where am I at with it? I think they need to say why they haven't made a decision. Yeah, I mean, we had back in December in the no types saying, and journalists built upon this, didn't they? That 777 are not going to fund the club beyond January. Yeah. I'm not convinced that's true, but hey-ho. And that presumably was, and I haven't asked anyone at 777 this, by the way, so it's just a personal opinion. I'm guessing they were trying to put pressure on them for a decision. We all know that if you're waiting for a decision and it's way overdue, it's not good. Yeah. Right? Time kills deals and all those sorts of things. So in this example, when you and I have talked about it on the business stuff, we've thought, well, perversely, the longer it goes, surely the more likely it is they get told yes. Yeah, yeah. And yet lots of people will say, surely the answer's going to be no.
Be no the other way,
and so maybe, just maybe, these guys at the Premier League who clearly we know from the PSR stuff have got flaky processes. The fit and proper owners and directors test clearly is getting put under stress by the type of organisation 777 are. Because I guess 777 have given them loads of squeaky clean answers to all the things that really matter. But you've still got all this noise about litigation here, there and everywhere. So maybe, just maybe, they're stuck. If we say yes, we're going to get battered. If we say no, we're going to get battered. But we do have to make a decision. And the idea, it's interesting, journalists seem to have taken it, and I think 777 quite cutely have taken what Masters said as to mean we'll have an answer within a couple of weeks. My take on it was, it's weeks away and I'm not putting a time on it. I also intuitively think they might go and do the easy thing and approve Jim Ratcliffe first. Which then would give them a problem because you say, well, hang on a minute, you've had this other one.
Well, that would just prove what he said yesterday.
Absolutely. It would prove.
The flip of the man.
Sorry, one of the big clubs has joined the queue, so you'll just have to wait your turn.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So it's got to happen soon. It's got to.
Just going back to what I was saying before, see, this is what makes me laugh. There's a story in the Telegraph, right? Wolves took the bold step of selling 17 players in the summer to avoid future punishment from the Premier League. And there's a quote from Gary O'Neill. We are delighted the club managed to correct things. Where's the context in that? Like, there's no context in that story. What you're basically saying is, we didn't get punished because we haven't got 17 players to sell.
And we haven't got George Mendes who moved.
And they only got out of it because they sold the other fella to bloody Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, they were done with
but they're the stories. It's like, we're not mentioning Everton, but we're having a swipe at you by going, look at Wolves, they're good boys. It's like, there's no context to that whatsoever. We didn't need to sell 17 players. We're in the green for our net spend. So it's like, this is what I'm talking about getting in front of the story. It's like, someone has got to get out there and give people context of why we are where we are. And if we think we haven't broke the rules, we need to tell everybody then why and what we're fighting. And then people can make a judgment rather than, you broke the rules, you spent... Not like the way when the first one was coming round and it was like, you spent all that money on all those players in 2017. It's like, yeah, it was 2017, mate. What's it got to do with now? There's this idea. No, every time we hear Everton have spent $1 billion and you're like, yeah, mate, that happened over like 10 years ago or something. We need someone to get in front of these stories.
There's no one at the club capable of it. And knock. That's
never say. You should never say no.
No, that's unfair because there probably is. There's no one at the club capable. Of giving someone the power to say that.
They are
if that makes sense.
spending lots of money.
Yeah.
Just curious because this is a financial breach to defend themselves with super silks, top barristers type of thing.
Oh, he's going on the wall, by the way, if he gets us off. I'm putting him on the back of one of the shirts.
But the reality is, and I know I use my soundbite of doing the right thing and doing things right. In legal terms, that second one, doing the right thing, right? That's natural justice. And it's not natural justice. I think double jeopardy is another phrase, isn't it? And the double jeopardy one does have a technical description of what it means, but natural justice would say a couple of things, wouldn't it? One, it would say you can't get punished twice for the same thing. Yeah. And the other one, and you see all this all the time if you watch a drama on the telly. And Baz has been a naughty boy, right? And we're going to punish him. And then you ask, well, I've done these other things I should have done. Will you take them into consideration at the same time? Yeah. So you don't keep coming back to court for another speeding offence or another whatever it might be. Yeah. And so if the Premier League knew or suspected, and they've been working closely with Everton for all these years, that they were going to breach again in 22-23, they should have done that when they did us last October. Said, listen, well, let's do it all at the same time, guys. Let's do it all at the same time. We've, as a football club, have breached the rules. We've had super crap, off-field leadership, okay? And, things are coming home to roost. But then, and this is where I'm totally on side with what Ped's saying, right? Which is, part of having your client journalist is you move the focus onto something else. So that you're not looking at Man City. Of course, yeah. Chelsea. You're not looking at the processes. How ineffective they are. You're not looking at the poor, very poor, certainly based on yesterday's performance, chief executive that you've got in post, right? And all the cognitive bias and conscious or subconscious and all these sorts of things, right? At a time when this brand is seen around the world and generates billions in broadcast revenues and those sorts of things. And a beneficiary of that scale is that chief exec himself, who earns a couple of £1 million a year, right? So everyone has vested interests. Nobody is independent, right? We're not independent. We're Everton fans, for crying out loud. But the nuance, as you just said, Ped, about look how good Wolves are. Baz said it a few minutes ago. Well, at least Nottingham Forest have owned up. The Premier League published...
That wasn't my point. I was saying that's what yesterday was a view. That was a view that was given. But why it was different.
But the Premier League announced that both clubs, right, had acknowledged they'd breached the regulations. Do you know what that really is a spin on? They filled a form in that has a number greater than 105 on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said before.
Yeah.
It's not going, we did it.
Technically, both clubs have to submit a PSR.
By handing in that form, you are admitting it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Literally.
But then you're going to come to court, if you like, and explain why you don't think it's true. And I think Baz has just touched the point. I've done an article for MTAG. I don't know when that will go out, Baz, probably today, tomorrow, whenever it is. But the crazy thing here is, at one end of the potential outcome of the appeal and then the subsequent 22-23 trial, at one extreme is some stupid amount of points deductions, yeah? 20 or whatever in total. At the other extreme is none. And you've just called it out a few minutes ago, Baz. It's not crazy to get to a situation where the two forensic accountants argue the toss in front of the appeal commission, and they conclude, actually, all those interest payments that you want to capitalise, blah, 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 they should actually be on the stadium side. And Everton go, well, that means we didn't breach it last time. And we're not breaching it this time. So actually, no case to answer. That's the other extreme. Now, my fear is, politically, that's horrific. You can't just have your equivalent of Howard Webb saying, oops, sorry, that man shouldn't have been sent off. There's so much turmoil and damage being done, basically in 9-10 months since last March. But for the outcome to be they didn't do anything wrong as far as the rules are concerned, it's crazy. And Forest will jump on the back of that and say, well, we don't think we've been done anything wrong either, certainly from a points deduction perspective. And while all that's going on, the distraction of we're changing the rules because they're crap, but they won't be ready in time for the start of next season, that's acknowledgement, in my world, that they're very unlikely to do anyone else next summer because they want the new rules in place first.
Yeah.
It's madness.
It's all a bit mad. Prim Travels says, Palace fan here, absolutely disgusting comment. We're all big clubs in this league. Exactly, mate.
Right.
Everyone should be
We're all equal.
Exactly the same. And, Bournemouth, another one, people say they're a small club or whatever. They're all in the Premier League. So therefore, just on the 777 thing, Paulie-esque is happy with the fact that he says, why would any due diligence process still be at least weeks away from 4 months after the process started? Time for Mashiri to acknowledge 777's unsuitability, reject them and allow suitable parties to rescue the club. But who are these suitable parties? That's what I would say.
What I would say on that is...
it's not for the guy, Farhad Mashiri, who's seeking to sell his shares to 777 partners to exit a process because the Premier League are incapable of concluding it.
No, I'm just saying...
Lest we forget, it was the same process that said Farhad Mashiri, all the owners are legitimate and fit and proper.
Yeah. And no, I'm just saying, I'm just reading out what Paul says.
No, I know.
About it. But I again, just to reiterate, I haven't seen another suitable party, because if they're hiding in the shadows, make yourself known then, people. Ladies and gents, make yourself known.
Well, they will, as and when this one falls down.
But it's a huge gamble, isn't it? If you really want something, you're going, well, I'll wait. Oh, they've bought it. Oh, okay. I nearly had it.
But we can unpack that, though, and that's, Paul's right, okay? 4 months plus whatever it is, and the chief exec's flippantly, maybe arrogantly saying, "Oh, it's weeks away yet." That's not a process. They've come up with a sunny day plan that says something happens every 2 weeks for these alleged transgressions of PSR. But something as simple as prove where the money's coming from, prove you can fund the business, prove. And the guys trying to do, we want to be the owners, believe they've given everything they've been asked for, and there's still not an answer. I don't think, personally, the answer is for Moshiri and or 777 to pull away. Yeah. But I'm not surprised that anyone who's out there who thinks they'd like to own the club themselves and are potentially, as Paul would see it, better owners in quotes than the ones that are being debated now, they're not going to show their hand, Baz, because if they become the only show in town, they're going to get a much better deal.
Yeah, no, I don't get me wrong, I get the other side to it, but I'm just saying, if it's, to me, that's still a risky strategy if you really want it.
Is, yeah.
If you're sort of looking and going, I'm not really that bothered, but if it comes up, we'll take it. I get that. So you wait. If you really genuinely want it, you come and muddy the waters, don't you, and go, these fellas are dodgy, we're not, come and check us out, we're clean, we want it, we can do it now, blah-de-blah.
The fact that somebody else wants to buy Farhad Moshiri's shares will have no impact at all on the Premier League.
No, I know,
but it just creates, I'm going to sell to them.
It creates the other aspect, doesn't it? No, that's what I'm saying, and I think that is obviously what Paul means, doesn't he? Go and speak to Farhad and go, we've got no baggage, we can have this tied up in whatever, blah de blah, if they really want it. Obviously, nobody's done it. Nobody's been able to convince Farhad Moshiri that they're ready to go. They have got the money, can be done quickly. They want to rescue. Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise, he would have just gone.
The simple thing is it not? And we're getting into some deep on this really, but someone like 777 allegedly have put 150 million quid or whatever it is to support the day-to-day running of the business, right? And that currently is debt, isn't it? Right? My understanding is that if they become successful at acquiring the football club, they'll convert that to equity, which is what Farhad Moshiri has done in the past, right? So that debt goes away.
Yeah.
Okay? Farhad Moshiri himself will write off the debt that the club has to him. Now, I can't imagine how or what or whatever another potential owner, whether they're US-based or whatever, if they're prepared to do those sorts of things. And, well, until they've lent Everton 150 million quid, they can't convert it to equity, can they? Yeah. So if you end up with a different owner, I mean, not Moshiri, not 777, but Zebedee Incorporated. Yeah. Zebedee Incorporated will buy a business called Everton, which owns Moshiri hundreds of millions of pounds, which owns 777 hundreds of millions of pounds, and potentially Rights and Media Funding hundreds of millions of pounds. And they'll start trying to tell those people, if you don't take some pence on the pound, we'll fold it, and you'll get nothing. Right? Now, that's administration. Yeah. That's a bang, nailed on 9 points. Yeah. Right? So the devil is in the detail, you know? And Moshiri's answer to that noise is, and he hasn't produced any evidence for the rest of us to be able to believe him or disbelieve him, I suppose, right? Is, therefore, in his view, the best people are 777. Okay. Which is madness, because none of us know that other than, you know, that's what he says, and yet he's the guy who fundamentally got us in this mess. Mad. Scary.
Our Premier members, some questions from them. Gary Waters, Hardy. Benjamin says, if the Premier League had any class about them, they should have said we can't judge Everton's latest PSR report until after the appeal has been judged upon, because in reality, no one knows what the outcome will be. So therefore proves they're incompetent at best.
There is no doubt the appeal will take place first before or saw Forest go into the courtroom again.
Stan says, all right, lads, agree. Totally, definitely a bias being shown. He's admitted it again. Let's hope the powers that be have listened. Jonathan says, yesterday was a good watch, but he did show his true colours. Yeah. And he sits in the same boat as Rishi Sunak. David Gandhi says, I see Mathew is back. Has Matt done it?
I've not.
He must have done something today that Everton have finished or something. Matt C says, the biggest thing for me has always been that it's applied mid-season. that came up yesterday, and Masters himself mentioned the removing of an asterisk, which itself is telling. Now we have 2 teams with an asterisk, several others with pending asterisks. Who's in Europe, who's top of the league, who's in the relegation zone? Nobody knows. This is worse than the COVID season. Stan says we don't need sympathy, we need the facts presented correctly. Masters is smug. Says Conrad, he said a bit more about him, but I won't repeat it. Paul says non-committal corporate obfuscation, is it? The arrogance emanating from Masters is very tangible. The Premier League clearly believe it's our train set, it's our rules, and are terrified of regulation because they'll be exposed for what they are. Wouldn't disagree with that. DJ Spuddles says, I think we're missing a massive point. Chelsea admitted breaches and were waived unpunished because the new ownership was in the process of being ratified by the Premier League. Masters said as much yesterday. We're also in that situation. Everton are also awaiting a new owner ratification by the Premier League. The issue is one of the threads we should be pulling. This issue is one of the threads we should be pulling on.
Well, that comes down to the commission, doesn't it? Ultimately, there's nothing in terms of that. There's nothing we can really do about that till we get into the commission. That's the Premier League basically just say you've gone over, and there you go. So,
Glenn says all Premier League clubs are equal. It's just that 6 are more equal than others. Nick Williams says we all know if we get them points back, if the Super Silk does his magic, they'll shaft us on the pitch like they have been doing anyway with VAR. We will get shitty end of the stick on everything because we got one over on them. But it's already happening, isn't it? So we're kind of already coping with that as we speak, aren't we? We've seen that in recent games. They've made sure that we haven't been given anything in recent games. And they changed 3 of our results, didn't they? With decisions. So what can you do? Everton are playing tonight, believe it or not. Yeah. FA Cup. 3rd round replay. They will face Luton Town, who won at Bolton last night. If they've been, well, Palace or Everton will face Luton Town because they beat Bolton 2-1 last night. West Ham went out in a very feisty game.
Moyes wasn't happy, was he, about the VAR? He spoke out about there being no VAR at the ground. Said it's a joke that it's not. It's in the tournament at some grounds and not. Shouldn't
be at any ground.
Yeah, and the more people who speak out about it, the better.
And to be fair to him, they had a couple of decisions went against them, VAR wise, but they also got away with a couple as well. Well, Ben Rahman deserved to be sent off.
Well, I said
that. But there was a couple of other ones. Cresswell was done someone. Although Joe Williams was tackling the first half, which Leon Osman said was sound. Would have been a red card in the Premier League, let's be honest.
Yeah, it was the same as Dingo's, wasn't he? The Liverpool players at Tottenham. Going over the ball, out of control.
But hey ho. But the game tonight, there's lots of stories going around that Abdoulaye Doucouré is injured and will be missing a game for, depending whatever you believe, 2 to 4 weeks. We'll see later. But what do you think the manager does tonight then?
The manager hasn't got a clue what to do. I'm sorry, he just hasn't.
No, so what should he do in your opinion then, if that is the case? No Doucouré. I mean, he kind of hinted there'd be no Doucouré.
He'd have to play Harrison at number 10 and play Dan Juma on the left
and play McNeil
on the right. But the manager, I can say this, the manager has not got a clue. What
about the Doucouré?
He hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a clue. Has not solved the problem. Has not solved the problem since he's been at the entire club because he's changed it multiple times. So he has to come up with something that
Would you go 4-4-2 and play Beto and Dom and just try and mix it up a little bit?
Takes away from what he likes though, doesn't it? Takes away from the kind of second striker that he likes, unless you could work on Beto or even Dom to do that role. But I don't know. Maybe put Dom in that role. Maybe work between the lines. Maybe you could find a different side of him. Get him going a little bit. Who knows? But if he is out, the manager has to start coming up with something because it's his biggest Achilles heel.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's grim because he has seen what the team is like without Abdoulaye Doucouré. if it was a month again, that'd be a hammer blow. But we're still a few weeks, we're 2 weeks away from playing
next Premier League game.
the Premier League game, So forget about the FA Cup. With 2 home games in that, you can tinker slightly. I think it's away. It's key. He's key away from home for us. So we'll just have to see what he can do. Personally, I'd play 4-4-2 tonight. I'd just give them a go for an hour, and you've got options. You've got players who you can move around slightly. As in, Andre Gomez can play there, of course. Lewis Dobbin could play wide. You could play Harrison off the striker. You could play McNeil off the striker. But if it was me, if I was Dyche tonight, I'd play a 4-4-2 and just mix it up and just be a little bit more direct. Go back to front, set someone closer down, get wide, get crosses into the penalty area for the 2 strikers to go at. If he wants the insurance of 3 midfielders, go 2 or 3 at the back then. And play 3-5-2 because you're still getting that midfield, grabbing hold of it. You can still compete in midfield. You've still got wide areas. Patterson on one side, Michaelenko on the other. You could play Dwight inside. I mean, he's kind of done that, hasn't he? He's gone a 3-4-3 a couple of times with Troop trying to play close to the striker. But I would definitely look at Beto with Dom because it'd give him an opportunity to see if it can work in some Premier League games. There might be times it can work, but
he's going to have to come up with something.
Well, he is, isn't he? Because and this again just reiterates that we definitely need to go and bring in at least one player this window, midfielder, and we need someone who can play off the front line, and that as well. Because otherwise, we are an injury.
But we're 2 down, aren't we? No Ashley Young, no Odisagana Gay. They can make.
No Decore, no.
They can make a difference to how we set up. And if there's no Decore, let's just start a tennis team or something. You have to rely on one person, then, don't you? And if you're early into it, we'll get into doubles.
That's right. I think the whole thing
small squad, innit, at least. Suits us.
It does suit us. Unless we get called up to Davis Cup.
Still only like 5 minutes.
Still, yeah. We wouldn't be in charge of the Davis Cup, would we? No. No, but they have got to look to do something in the low market this month. Just to give him bodies, because you're asking him to go to. He's at the moment. He's the chief engagement officer. He's admitted yesterday that basically we sold and got rid of players he would have liked to have kept for the squad. He'd come out and said it. We've also sold kids he probably didn't really want to sell. Tom Cannon, he wanted to give him a year and have a look at him. Everton were like, we've got money for him, we have to let him go now. Okay. So you've took that away from him. He's got no CEO. He's got the only thing we have got is fans. We've got no CEO, no real board. And, we were making proper decisions.
Rudderless once again.
And we haven't got a squad for him.
Once again, the manager is the spokesman. The manager is the spokesman for the entire club. And, that's Everton. It's Everton.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. It's Everton.
Cardeem says, I know it's a crazy option, but just get Lingard in for 6 months. Is it the way? Listen, character-wise, we don't need Jesse Lingard, crikey, but as someone who might get you a couple of goals and create something,
do you think?
Let me just ask you this
question just before we wrap up.
Go ahead.
Do you think, in a way, Everton have to even be very careful bringing players in just for PR, just for
PSR?
But no, for how it looks.
Oh, for how it looks. But if it's loans,
no, I know, but. I'm not saying this or it isn't. I'm just saying if Everton were to bring in, say, Jesse Lingard, right? Do you think PR-wise that could look like a really bad move in terms of like, well, you've got no money and you're supposed to be selling players and you've brought this fella in who's on £100,000.
But what are we going to?
Because he's not on £100,000 because it's the same thing with Delhi. When we brought Delhi in, we paid 20. We paid 20 million.
Yeah, I remember 40, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Sky reported 40 million.
And all this kind of thing. I just wonder whether that ever enters the equation of like, we've got to be very careful about what we do in the PR stakes. It's because this is the mess, isn't it? This is the absolute.
I know, but I don't think that should be I don't think that should be a reason not to do
No,
it.
I agree with you.
No, but I'm saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely
Me
agree with
personally,
you.
I'd just go, I'm bringing him in.
The
Couldn't give a
issue
toss.
is we got rid of 17 players. That's part of the thing you're up against, isn't it?
But it's a
Independent commissions aren't independent. They've got ears and they've got eyes. They
No,
see.
no.
They
No,
can't
no.
be hidden. None of this can be hidden from them. And if people walk into a room and they've got already got a certain preconceived ideas in their head, they're human beings, aren't they? You know, the whole thing we've heard of them. You sold Dean and then you brought in a right back. It's like, yeah, we need.
But Everton should be, if they've got a decent KC,
Oh, I know.
they should be able to prove to them that that's just nonsense, isn't it? But you know what I mean, don't you? You know what I mean. Rod Ross says, just bring Hammers back to win the Premier League up. Get Hibberts in, get them all back, get the band back together, put bids in for players, going off for like 37 million for Lukaku or something and just offer bid. Doesn't matter if you can buy them, put bids in, get people's heads falling off everywhere. Dex says, come on Blues, over 1,000 watching, get them likes up. You should be liking and subscribing. You've come here, you sounding like Richard Masters now by not liking and subscribing. It's really, really poor. Right.
I heard Richard Masters did like the video, and that's what makes these people watching even worse.
If Masters is throwing a like on the video, then that's poor that other people haven't. John had sent me a picture of Richard Masters' wiki page. It's a very, very interesting read. Very, very interesting read, so go and check it out. Right, we will be live on More Than a Game at 2:30. So it just come, the link will be here. Just stay where you are, leave it on. Join us over there for more football chat. Do it. Why wouldn't you? We'll see you in about, I don't know, what is it, 12 minutes or so?
Can we have 3 more likes? I'm not going off till we get...
It's 200 now. You've done well done. Well, hang on, let me see subscribes.
250 now.
Let me see subscribes. 7 to take it over 800. 6 to take it over 83,800. 6 people. 6 of you. That just goes bing. Oh, subscribe. Second. It's up to you. It's up to you. If you don't, basically, you're Richard Masters' best mate.
Yeah.
That's up to you. If you are, fine. No problem with that. And I'm sure he's got
stands
mates.
by fruit machines.
Tells you what to do. And then tuts when you lose your money because you didn't do it right.
There you go.
There you go. MB says, Baz, I thought you said we wouldn't get done. Well, there's 2 things with that. First of all, I don't know Everton's books. And there's lots of people who are far more qualified than me who have said Everton are well within their the PSR stuff. Paul Quinn knows a million times more than I do about profit and loss and PSR and all that. Is still adamant that Everton haven't failed it. So there you go. If you're looking at numbers that are there, Everton should be well in. But I don't know all the other numbers, do I? Danny Russell, rules are being broken. What rules? Take the punishments. What we have for 10 points down, mate. Go and read the whole thing, Danny, and then come back and then say, oh yeah, you've broke the rules because of this. We'll see. We will see, won't we? But Danny, just give us a little bit of insight in who you support. Just before we go, I want to hang on for 30 seconds to see what team you support. Well said, Emma. Well said. I didn't think we would get a points deduction because I thought people had brain cells. Come on, Danny, tell us who you support. You're quick at typing. Take the punishment. Well, come on then. Who do you support? I'll give you 27 seconds to type. Come on, mate. Let us know. Come on, Dan. Come on, Big Dan. Come on, quick, before the teacher takes your phone off you. Oh, there you go. No further questions.
Who is it?
Who do you think? No further questions.
Could be anyone at this point.
It's a red.
Oh,
I mean, the least intelligent ones as well.
Yeah.
Not the ones who understand football.
No.
See you, Dan. See you, mate. Right, we're going. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye. You'll never walk.